Hey guys, if I sound awful, it's because I'm tired. It's like 11 o'clock something, and I've had a pretty long day today. Main reason, I saw Barbenheimer. What is that, you might ask? It's not really a movie, it's actually kind of a combination of two movies, which is Barbie and Oppenheimer. Barbenheimer's been like the biggest thing of the last week and a half, because it's kind of a funny story because the two movies just came out on the same day, Barbie and Oppenheimer, and everyone was all like, "Oh my god, they're so different! Oh my god, what is this?" It all boiled down to two movies that are absolutely nothing alike coming out on the same day. I don't know if that's the case for everywhere. That might not be the case in places like England or China, but definitely here in America, two movies which are on opposite ends of the world came out on the same day. Um, in reality, I'm not gonna. What I usually do with movie comparisons, what you saw with Fantasia versus Encanto, is I usually like break it down into bits. Like what I do is like I'll have story, characters, um, stuff. With this one, I was gonna do that, but then I just decided it's kind of more interesting to talk about like the differences. And yes, I will have like a which one was better, but you know, they're just it's just so fascinating to me that because for a while people were actually getting worried that movie theaters were dying. Like a lot of movies weren't actually making that much money that came out recently. Ruby Gilman, Teenage Kraken is one, but I think it's kind of a no-brainer that that wouldn't make much money. It didn't look anything special. It looked like a bland kids movie, so of course only parents who just wanted to kids who just really wanted to see it, and parents brought them to see that kind of thing. That kind of movie. So I don't think anyone should be surprised that it flopped. Elemental was I think the bit. I don't know if it's changed, but supposedly it's the biggest Pixar flop in I want to say years, but I think it's the biggest Pixar flop of all time. Definitely its opening weekend. Like the first weekend that it was out is the worst of all of Pixar's opening weekends, including The Good Dinosaur, which didn't make money at all. Uh then you have like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. That didn't make much money. Now, now there's plenty of reasons why these movies haven't made much money. You also have The Flash. Flash is like one of the most famous superhero characters, definitely one of the most famous DC. He ain't make much. That movie didn't make much. Um Now there is a big reason why that might be the case with that movie. And yeah, I think the last big hit, like you had Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, pretty good one by the way. Uh that one made money, but it wasn't like a smash hit. The only real like big time movie that came out this year was the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which made like I don't know how much money exactly, but it made like if you didn't know, like you know Frozen, how that's like considered the most popular animated movie of all time. It made less money than the Mario Bros. Movie. Oh yeah. Now I don't know if that's the case now because keep in mind Frozen came out 10 years before, so if you adjust for inflation, then perhaps then it probably would have made more. Maybe if you adjust for inflation, more people went to see it, but as it is now, the Super Mario Bros. Movie made more money and is ranks number 3 on the highest grossing animated movies. So that was a big hit. Um Only beaten by Frozen 2 and the Lion King remake. If you don't count the Lion King remake, then it's number 2. And if you exclude sequels and remakes, it's number 1, but that's not what we're talking about. Point is, a lot of movies this year haven't made money. The only one being the Super Mario Bros. Movie is the only one that made a ton. Avatar 2 doesn't count. That came out 2022. Yeah, it was really close. Now, you could attribute a lot of things to these movies. Like, you could say that all these movies coming out in such a short amount of time, people are just burnt out and don't want to and are just there's too many movies coming out at the same time. You could argue that for Indiana Jones' case, he's a very popular character for people who are 30 years old and older. He's a very beloved character by those people. But in terms of like younger crowds, they don't really. Like I'm a huge fan of Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is one of my all time favorites. But that's actually happened within the last few weeks. I've kind of fallen in love with it. But a lot of other kids my age, and especially a lot younger kids, don't really care about Indiana Jones at all. They just like their parents didn't show them the movies, and they just don't find him interesting. Probably because he's just a dude with running around with a whip, and they find princesses with ice powers more interesting. Whatever. But that's besides the point. You have that. Yeah, that's basically it. But and the Flash, of course, Ezra Miller, his crimes. That's probably why that movie, because he's a criminal who's done a lot of bad things, and everyone is just not. They don't want to support the movie because they feel like they're supporting a criminal, or they're supporting a company, because like Warner Brothers, instead of, yeah, it would have cost a lot more money for them to have to hire a new actor and reshoot 90% of the movie, pretty much 100%, pretty much actually, because I think Ezra Miller is in at least every scene. I don't think there's any shot without Ezra Miller, or to CGI him off, which, considering how the CGI actually looks in the movie, would not. Mm-mm. So I feel like what happened was the movie was they've probably finished shooting it, and they already had gotten done a ton of the effects. But that movie, but basically it's because of Ezra Miller and Elemental. I guess people just weren't interested in seeing that kind of movie. I guess doesn't help that some of these movies weren't getting glowing reviews. Um, I mean, The Flash had Michael Keaton return as Batman, and that's a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people who saw the 1989 movie. Nope, they didn't care. Then you had Supergirl in that movie, which you would think attract the girl crowd because a lot of girls love Supergirl. Nope. Um, Not to mention she wasn't really given much to do in that movie. Sure, she could make a good Supergirl. Nah, no one went to see The Flash. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Indiana Jones left. No. So, what I'm basically trying to go over is that for a while, for like a month or two, people were just kind of getting worried because of all these movies not making money, that movies were dying. I mean, I think Indiana Jones lost money. Like, cause yeah, like it cost $300 million to make, and it made 300 million. So you're probably like, well then it didn't make or lose any money. Movies have to make money. Like they have to make money. They can't like cancel it out so that it doesn't make money or lose money. It can't make a little. No, it has to make a lot of money in order to like be considered a success. It has to break the budget by a lot. Indiana Jones didn't. Not only that, but the marketing takes like 100, $200 million, so it lost money. It lost Disney a ton of money. Then but then Barbie and Oppenheimer happened. Barbie is a famous property. We all know this. She's like the most famous doll. Pretty much. That's pretty much the guarantee. Barbie is like the most famous doll. And I don't think she's ever had a major motion picture up until now. What I mean by that is like major motion picture. We're talking like movie theaters, live action, because most Barbie movies were animated. Like I know there was like a Barbie TV show on Netflix, but I mean, and I don't know if they were movies or not, but most Barbie movies weren't. They were either low budget animated movies or shorts, but I don't think there's ever been a Barbie movie with such a high budget until now. And it was also very meta. I will give it that. A lot more meta than I'd assume. Oppenheimer isn't that much of a famous guy. Like, of course, he's famous for being the one responsible for the creation of the nuclear bomb, but I actually had never heard his name until I first saw promos for the movie Oppenheimer. Um, Robert J. Oppenheimer is his full name. If you've seen the movie, you know that. Or maybe not the J part, but yeah. I don't know what the J stands for, but I don't think I need to know. Um, yeah. The reason now I don't now the big reason why the two movies succeeded, they came out on the same day. I don't remember exactly what day, but they came out on the same day. And just to be clear, this wasn't really planned because if it was planned, both of them would have been made by the same company, and they weren't. Barbie was made by Warner Brothers. You know, the guys behind not the guys, but the team behind the Looney Tunes, the DC movies, um, those guys. And Oppenheimer was Universal, the people behind the Jurassic Park movies, the Fast and the Furious movies. Yeah, a lot of stuff. And if you want to get back in the days of when Oppenheimer was around, they made those classic monster movies like Dracula, Frankenstein, The Invisible Man. But that was a long ass time ago. You probably are probably not in probably not familiar with more. So more, if you're more familiar with Jurassic Park and Fast and the Furious, but basically Universal and Warner Brothers, two completely different studios. They both made yeah, they both made those well, Warner Brothers made Barbie, Universal made Oppenheimer. So it was complete coincidence that they happened to come out on the same day. But the idea of seeing two movies that are completely different from each other was actually interesting to a lot of people. I don't know, because I feel like so many people, Barbie is in a lot of people's hearts. That's probably why they went to see it. Um, Oppenheimer. I think the big reason why that one was successful was because I was about to say Christian Bale, but that's not the right name at all. Fuck, what's his name? Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is a well famous director. He's directed movies like The Dark Knight. That entire Batman trilogy begins Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises. He directed. He did movies like Interstellar, Tenant, The Prestige. I think he did The Prestige, and fuck, I'm forgetting. I know I'm forgetting some. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I mean, literally watched a video where people were reviewing, like three guys were literally going over every Christopher Nolan movie. I can't think of the other ones because there's plenty of movies he's made besides the ones I've just listed. Um, Whatever. You can look up Christopher Nolan's filmography and you'll see he's directed a lot of beloved movies. So the fact that he's making a new movie, a lot of people are already interested because he's a famous director, and he's made a lot of really good movies. I mean, The Dark Knight is considered one of the greatest movies of all time. Um, now, shit. Now something Oppenheimer does, because here's the thing, Christopher Nolan loves to do in his movies. He loves to make his movies and make them out of order, or like he like the way he makes his movies, he edits them out of order. So like certain scenes will take place either later, earlier, sometime like in that timeline thing. The only movie I can think of his, I haven't seen all of his. Admittedly, I've only seen 3 of his movies. But the only movie I can think of that tells its story straightforward, like it doesn't tell it like out of like doesn't tell it out of order, like it tells it in order, like chronologically. What? Okay. Um, it's Sorry, I forgot to tell my mom I was down here. Quick video making advice: if you're going to record your video downstairs and it's really late, make sure you tell your parents or your mom or your dad that you're down there, so they know. Um, right. But the Dark Knight's like the only, and the Dark Knight Rises, but that's the less popular example. The Dark Knight is like the only major Christopher Nolan movie where it tells its story from point A to point B, C, D. A lot of his movies are A, F, C, B, D. You get it. They're just told out of order, and Oppenheimer does that. It uses black and white to differentiate it, so you can have an easier time seeing. Though it's weird because the black and white I think is more later in time. I think the black and white is like 60s, which is quite strange because it's like you would expect the scenes to take place in the 40s. I think there's scenes that take place in the 20s, maybe the 30s that aren't in black and white. It's confused. That's a little confusing, but yeah, black and white to help differentiate the timelines. Um, and of course, it has some famous in terms of people that are in the movie that are famous. I guess one of them partially is the president, but I don't remember what the president's name is, so I don't know. Albert Einstein's probably the most famous person that's in the movie from real life. I didn't know that Albert Einstein played a part in the creation of the nuclear bomb, but it doesn't surprise me since he's the most famous German scientist, probably like top 10 smartest people in the world. Um, yeah, that's all that's some of that. Um, wow, I'm really having trouble trying to. I'm really having trouble because I didn't script this at all. Most people, when they do this things right, they script it. But let's finally, after almost 20 minutes of talking, let's actually compare the fuckers. Um, Barbie and Oppenheimer. The thing about these movies are that they are just wildly different, like on opposite sides of the world. And we're talking like how, like, there are so many aspects of filmmaking that they do, but they do it differently. Like, they have different forms of editing. They have different uh color palettes. I mean, for God's sake, um, Oppenheimer doesn't even have one color palette. Um, they have completely different tones, completely different stories, completely different characters. One is completely fiction. The other one is completely nonfiction. Maybe some exaggerated elements or some of elements I didn't know about, but one's it's based on a real life event situation. Um, the other one's based on toys. It's not real at all. Um, only thing that's real about it is that the woman named the doll after her child, Barbara. You have. I literally could go on forever, like, com- unbelievably different music. Um, they evoke different emotions, different messages. You get the idea. They're just so different that, like, finding similarities between the two is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's just, it's damn near impossible. Like, I'm genuinely trying to think. The only similarity I can think of is that they came out on the same day. But it's not really a similarity between the two actual movies. That's just a similarity in their production. Um, they're by two different companies. Um, I would say they're both in color, but Oppenheimer isn't entirely in color. Um, yeah, they're basically just completely different. It's really just not like it's not easy because at all. Barbie is meant to be a lot more fun. Yeah, there are scenes that are meant to like empower people, but for the most part, it's just meant to be more of a fun experience. Oppenheimer's meant to be more engaging and thrilling than Barbie. Literally in Oppenheimer, there were literally scenes where I was scared that people would die. Barbie, I never got close. Not even close to a. Are they gonna die? No. Mm-mm. Never happened. Oppenheimer thrilled me way more than Barbie. Um, comedy, I mean, they're both I mean, Oppenheimer's a little funny because there are some jokes in there that actually kind of make you laugh. There's one joke especially where like they have like 12 countries, not countries, 12 cities in Japan to choose from. Uh, but the guy who enlists these cities, he marked one off. I think it was called Kyoto, Kyoto. I don't know what it's called, but I think it's I think it's Kyoto, a city spelled like that. Kyoto. I'm just gonna call it Kyoto. He marks Kyoto off because he had his honeymoon there. That's literally why he marked that country off not to nuke it, because he had his honeymoon there. Kind of humorous scene. I mean the audience laughed, so that's in terms of like audience experiences, the audience laughed a lot more with Barbie, I can tell you. A lot more. And I do gotta admit, yeah, I laughed a few times while watching Barbie. Not much at all for Oppenheimer, so I guess Barbie's funnier, but Oppenheimer isn't really meant to be a comedy, like, at all, so. And Barbie isn't inherently a comedy, but it has a lot more comedic elements, so it kind of sees fit that it be funnier. Both are from world renowned. I don't know if I want to say world renowned in Barbie's case, but both are from great directors. There's a similarity, I guess. You have Christian Bale versus I don't know her fucking name, but I can tell. I know. I can tell you right now that they're similar. That's similar because the director who directed Barbie, she's only directed two other slightly major movies, which isn't saying much, but they're both really like beloved movies. They are Lady Bird and Little Woman. Little Woman. I think it's called Little Woman, something like that. But she directed Lady Bird and Little Woman, so you can tell she's directed a lot of girl-oriented movies. But I haven't seen Lady Bird or Little Woman, so I can't. I'm not gonna try and make that judgment. But both Lady Bird and Little Women are beloved movies, so she's not a world renowned director because she hasn't directed as much as Christopher Nolan. Her movies aren't as beloved as Christopher Nolan. When you bring up the great directors, she's not brought up nearly as much as Christopher Nolan. So, but still, they both have directors that have pretty good archives, I guess you would call them. Yeah, both. I don't think either director have made a single bad movie. At least I think, because Christopher Nolan's first movie was isn't. I don't know if how much. I don't know if people like that one or not, but still. Barbie and Oppenheimer, they're just so different. Like it's really just it. Actually, finding similarities between the two movies is just. It's like quantum physics. I just don't know how the fuck to do it. Um. Both movies have a lot of dialogue. Yeah, there's a similarities that both movies have a lot of dialogue. Um, yeah, a lot of movies have a lot of dialogue, but Oppenheimer in and Barbie are kind of rooted in dialogue in a way. Like if you watch like I guess here's an example. Here's an example of movies that rely on dialogue and movies that don't. If you watch a movie like Raiders of the Lost Ark that I brought up earlier, it's a movie that, of course, it has sound and it's in color because it was made in 1981 and they had sound and color back in 1981. But here's something a lot of people don't. Here's something you may not know or something. If let's say you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, but turn the sound off and heck for the fun of it, maybe make it black and white to give it a more um old movie. Like we're talking real old movies. We're talking like movies that are over 100 years old. Kind of feel. Make it black and white. Turn off the sound. You can actually follow Raiders of the Lost Ark pretty well. That's how well the visual storytelling is. You can tell what's happening on screen, the way the characters move, and the way the movie plays out. You can if it was a silent movie made in the 20s, you could still tell what was going on. They wouldn't need to flashcards. That movie is a very much a visual storytelling movie. But with both of these movies, I feel like Barbie you could follow decently without the need of sound and color. Um Actually, I mean, I guess that's one thing. I mean, I don't know actually, because that movie does have a lot of visual storytelling thing, but there's a lot of jokes in there and a lot of things that are rooted in the like in the dialogue that wouldn't be funny if it was silent. That movie is just. I think you could follow it along if you couldn't hear it, but it wouldn't be funny really. Yeah, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. There's a lot of and Oppenheimer is 99% dialogue. Most of that movie is about the dialogue. It's about the what's going on. And sure, if you turn it off, you could follow what's happening, but you wouldn't really understand the characters. You wouldn't understand the quantum physics they're explaining. You would just be like, okay, they're building a town. They're they're lighting the nuclear bomb. They're having sex. Oh, that's another the difference is their rating. Barbie is PG-13. Yeah, I don't know why it's PG-13. I don't know if there's anything in there that's inherently bad. I feel like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I keep on bringing up that movie, but was a lot worse, and it's PG. But who knows? Then you have Oppenheimer, which is R-rated. Um, it's not, and it's only really rated R because of the use of swearing, and there are like two scenes where Oppenheimer and a girl are naked. Literally, one of them is of them having like literally them talking while she's humping him naked. Just to be clear, I'm 16 watching this in the theater, and I'm trying to avoid you get it. I don't even know how I was actually. I don't even know how I was allowed to go in there. I thought it was like a rule that like it's not a law, but I thought it was like a rule that if you're under 18, they won't allow you to see the movie. Beats me, but maybe I'm just that tall that they assumed I was an adult. By the way, when I was walking in to watch Barbie, the girl, the lady at the front who scanned my ticket, I literally told her, I swear I lost to a bet, and she giggled a little. Uh, I mean, isn't that what you would say? I mean, I watched these movies by myself, just to be clear. I didn't bring anyone to watch either. I didn't bring my dad to see Oppenheimer. I did not bring my sister or my mom to see Barbie. Probably should have done that, but yeah, I saw them by myself. But it's actually the first time I ever saw movies by myself in the theater. Pretty sure it is. Can't really recall a movie I saw in the theater by myself besides those two. So yeah. Um yeah, that's really it. Like Barbie and Oppenheimer, very different. Now, in terms of comparing like what actually makes them better or worse, I mean, you know, stuff. Like if we're going like entertainment value, Barbie is technically more entertaining than Oppenheimer. My cat is gonna get annoying. Cat, please. You guys don't understand. When she gets on me, she doesn't get off, and I can't go to sleep down here. Okay, can't can't you choose better times? She always chooses the worst times to get all cuddly. This is the problem with having a cat. Make sure that you need to make sure that they cuddle at the best times because they always choose the fucking um yeah, so yeah, but like so Barbie's more entertaining because um like it has a lot more jokes, a lot more colorful, a lot more like entertainment value scenes. Um my cat's really distracting. Um and she's biting me. Okay. Um yeah, it's but if you watch the movies you'll understand what I'm talking about because Oppenheimer's a lot more like visual like well yeah partially visual and also just a ton of dialogue, political talk. I mean Barbie actually has some political talk, so I guess there's a there's a similarity. They both have some political talk. uh yeah, it's more entertaining. In terms of story, I mean, you gotta go with Oppenheimer because it's based on a real story and it's actually engaging. I mean, don't get me wrong, Barbie was engaging too, but Oppenheimer was actually like thrilling. Like I actually kind of got thrilled at. Sorry, I keep on getting like distracted because my camera. What on earth is it doing? It just keeps on like zooming in and zooming out. Okay, I don't know what it's doing. Don't ask me what it's doing. I have no. I mean, I have an iPhone 14. Okay, my parents don't even have a like as high tech of a phone as I do. So it's probably just focusing or something. But the yeah that's Barbie um and yeah so well story yeah Barbie is it's just Oppenheimer's more thrilling, so I guess it technically earns the point for that one. In terms of characters, I mean, I guess that one is just, it's that's hard because the characters are just so different. I mean, Barbie is a cast of fun characters, characters who are meant to entertain you, while Oppenheimer's more serious characters. Not they're not there to entertain you. They're there to throw you. So you know, I mean, literally, slight spoiler alert. But one character literally commits suicide. That scene did have me a little confused because, in a way, it almost looked like someone was pushing her in, and then, but then she just shows her putting her head in there. Essentially, she essentially just drowned herself in her bathtub, which was like, yeah, kind of saw that coming because for some reason she was obsessed with a guy creating nuclear bombs. Okay, I don't know what's up with these women, but if they like that, that's all I want from a relationship. Fine. Uh, Characters I can't give it to either because it's just they're so different. Like it's genuinely impossible to really compare the characters. I mean, Margot Robbie is really good as Barbie, but forgot his name, but the guy who plays Oppenheimer also did really good. And you want to talk about acting? I mean, the actors have to act different ways, but the acting all around is really good in both. So you know, I guess in that regard, I'm just not gonna give either. Now, I mean, and in terms of like spectacle, that pretty easily goes to Barbie. I mean, the Oppenheimer does have the scenes where the nuclear bombs go off, and that is the most spectacle scene of the movie, of course. Because not only does the bomb go off, but it does like the effect where because light travels faster than sound, depending on how far away something is, you probably like I don't know if you've ever experienced, but there's things where like you'll see something happen, and then a couple of seconds later you'll hear a sound. Like a firework may go off like 300 feet away. You won't hear it at first. You just see the explosion, and then you'll hear it after a few seconds. That's what they did there. The nuclear bomb goes off, and after like they don't actually hear the boom until 45 seconds later. So but that's the only spectacle moment in the entire movie. Barbie, the sets were actually really well made in the sense of like there's like a scene where the camera is panning down, looking at them from up high, and the set is so well designed. It literally looks like a toy set, like a set of Barbie houses. Like it legit looked like I was looking at it legit looked like I was looking at toys. That's how well the movie was designed, in the set design as well. Um, and the dance sequence the dance sequences were very well executed, even if there were like two. Um, yeah, but like everything literally looked exactly how toys look. So you know, it is what it is. Um, yeah. So Barbie takes that point, but and you want to talk messages? I mean, Barbie is feels more like kind of like like a lot of feminist movies. Although this one's more feminist than those other ones. What I mean by that is like the definition of feminist, or the original definition at least, was the equality of all genders, like, or of all people actually, not just genders, like black, white, gay, straight, fat, skinny, tall, short, um, male, female, uh, long hair, bald. You get it. Everyone equal. Everyone's equal. Um, but in this case, it's more that where everyone should be equal because it's like the Barbies are in control of the Kens, which act as the boys. It's like showing how the boys are just kind of lower and the girls are up higher, but then the guys take control and they realize that neither both of them, the boys took control because they were just kind of shoved to the side for so long. Um, yeah, that was part of it. Um, but it's more so just like equality for all people. And what I mean when I say it's more feminist than other feminist movies, like a lot of people who used to believe in feminism say that it lost its meaning because it kind of just became like a way to destroy everything, in the sense that like it's basically like all feminist movies have basically, instead of them being like boys and girls are equal, have just turned into girls are awesome, girls rock, girls are the top of the species, and boys suck, they're pigs, they're dumb, stupid. Barbie doesn't do that. It does it tries to kind of show that like are that we should be equal, where it's not, oh, girls are better than dudes, it's like I understand why a lot of direct women directors did that with movies, was make them like very girl oriented, because they were just so pissed on how much guys were how us dudes were just taking everything. But the way it was, I mean, but yeah, the way it was done, Barbie just felt a lot more like, oh, thank God. But but at the end of the day, both movies were great. I was expecting to hate Barbie, surprised me. Um, yeah. So which one I liked more? I mean, I liked Oppenheimer more, but should it really be that surprising? It was honestly kind of sad to see someone like me, a teenage boy, go in and see Barbie when all the other audience was mostly women, and women in pink at that. There were boys, but I don't think I saw a single boy in there that went by himself. Most of them were little boys that were forced to come with their moms, or dudes that were forced to come by their girlfriends or their husband, something like that. Yeah, that's that was that. Oppenheimer was a lot more just not the same thing. And yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that it confirmed that depending on the movie you watch, you might get different trailers. Because when I went to see Oppenheimer, I saw a lot of trailers for rated R movies. I don't remember exactly what movies these were, but I know one of them was Exorcist Believer, which, why the fuck are they making another Exorcist movie? But I was like, I mean, I didn't know at first, but then I could tell. I was like, oh yeah, this is the new Exorcist. In fact, as soon as the Exorcist title popped up, the lady sitting next to me, like in her 40s or in her 50s, was just like, oh, seriously, and I almost laughed because it was like, yeah, women that age just traumatized by that movie, the original that is, not the new one. I don't even know. The new one seems like it's gonna go hard on being scary, but it has to live like, that's the thing about those Exorcist sequels, man. They're literally trying to live up to like they're literally these like Exorcist 3, not 2. 2 is out of this world. 3, the prequels, and now this one, and clearly it's trying to be really scary, just trying to, you know, live up to the original Exorcist. But the thing is, they're trying to live up to the original Exorcist, which is most famous for being the unanimous decision for scariest movie of all time. So they've kind of got a lot. They've kind of got a lot of shoes to fill. All right. Now the reason why I see this is because you have a movie like Barbie and Oppenheimer, which weren't sequels to anything. Oppenheimer you could probably consider a remake to other Oppenheimer movies, but they're more its own, they're more their own thing. You know, they're not movies sequels to movies that didn't need sequels at all. Um, but yeah, but back to my point, like, and when I went to see Barbie, there were a lot of more PG-13 PG movies on the trailers. Yeah, basically, like when I went to, like, the movies literally like will translate to the audience, like, so if you go to see a rated R movie, it's gonna have a lot like more rated R movie trailers. Yeah, that kind of, that sort of thing. Um, but at the end of the day, I mean, Oppenheimer was technically, I liked it more because I found the story more engaging. Yeah, it's mostly dialogue, but I found the dialogue interesting. Good stuff. One of the coolest uses of a nuclear bomb explosion in a movie. I mean, I don't know if they. I don't. I'm pretty sure they didn't use an actual nuclear bomb to light off an actual nuclear bomb for the movie. I don't know. I don't know how they did it. If it was CGI or a smaller bomb that was meant to look like a nuclear bomb. If they actually used a nuclear bomb, that would blow my mind. But that's a little bit too many casualties, if you ask me. But yeah, that's the case. But Barbie was funnier, I guess. As to which movie I recommend more, honestly, it just depends on who you are. Like, I'm sure there's an audience of people who will love who like. There's a plenty of audience of people who love Barbie, plenty of audience of people who love Oppenheimer. Some people don't like, in the audience of people who don't like the movies. Yeah, that's Barbenheimer for you. I've been sitting here talking for 45 minutes. I am now so fucking tired. I've got to go to bed. Sorry, Kitty. You got to be down here for the rest of the night by yourself. This cat, I swear. Well, yeah, that's about it. You know what? Actually, I'm just gonna try and think a little. Let me make sure I've got everything down that I want to talk about. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, I like the Godfather reference in Barbie. That's about it. That's about all I can think of. Oh God, I literally feel like I'm gonna start dozing off, so I better just end the video. I might end up falling asleep on making it. I can't sleep down here. I gotta go. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.